I was inspired by the idea of the effects of time over a vision. Like, how does time relate to ideas and how do they affect one another? And then I even got really kind of sciencey about it for a minute and started studying some Einstein relativity stuff, understanding a little bit more about matter and its weight, how observation can affect matter,
Mhm.
and the idea that just even how I've spent time observing this idea in my own life could actually help in some real way a future generation actually achieve it.
Welcome to the Dance Maker podcast presented by Small Plates Choreography Festival. In this series, we engage in inspiring conversations with choreographers from the Small Plates Network, whose work has been showcased in our performances. Small Plates Choreography Festival is an artist-centric dance performance series designed for dance makers at all stages of their choreographic careers. We expertly curate and produce concert dance through an open application process, highlighting distinct, uncommon, and relevant short dance works in performances in several different U.S. cities each year. Our goal is to be a platform for dance makers to amplify their voices and reach, and to create a lively interface between artists and audiences, exploring the creative process and the intent behind each dance. I'm Beth McKee Elliott, a lifelong dancer, dance maker, producer, somatic practitioner, and artist. Choreography has been a profound pursuit throughout my life, and I established Small Plates Choreography Festival in 2012 to create a platform and community for choreographers like myself to present work and to connect with audiences and fellow creators. This podcast is an extension of Small Plates Choreography Festival and is intended to amplify the impact of the artists in our community. This podcast serves as a medium for conversations with dance makers about their inspiration, experiences, processes, and the deeper purpose behind their creations. We will hear from the talented choreographers of Small Plates about what draws them to dance, their creative process, and their artistic journeys. To be a dance maker is to be a joy maker, a culture maker, and a meaning maker. Join me as we discover how choreographic work comes to life through the eyes of the artists of Small Plates, and learn where you can engage further with them and with their performances. Hi, and welcome to the Dance Maker podcast. I'm Beth McKee Elliott, and I'm here today with Jeanna Vance. Jeanna is the executive director of Open Sky Arts Collective. She's based out of Dallas, Texas, and she presented her dance A Distant Welcome at Small Plates Austin in 2024. Welcome, Jeanna.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
So wonderful to have you. Could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be a dance maker?
Sure. I grew up dancing. The earliest memories I have were, 3 years old watching Baryshnikov in the Nutcracker on my grandmother's television. And
Mhm.
eventually made my way into Houston Ballet Academy. Actually grew up in the Houston area and grew up at Houston Ballet, and then fell in love with modern and contemporary dance in my late teens. I went to something called the Craft and Choreography Workshop, which was held at the University of Utah back in 97. It was a 2 week
Mm.
workshop that just threw dancers and kind of fledgling choreographers together. Every single evening, we had a new production. So I was brought in as a dancer, but the whole experience of it really inspired me as a dance maker. And eventually, as I kind of walked out at figuring out my dance career, which was mostly based in Houston, but I just decided early on that anybody that invited me to dance with them, unless I had a major problem with it, I was just going to say yes. And I just wanted to experience every type of dance, every style of dance that I could. So I did everything from strange side of the road pieces where I had black balloons tied to me everywhere to, you know, playing characters in huge, big, furry costumes to, being the embarrassed background dancer in a hip hop video once, just anything. I just thought, I just want to experience all of this. And eventually I started realizing that I really wanted my dance to somehow move audiences towards experiencing the amazing unconditional love of God that I have been impacted by in my life, and which I'm still floored by and trying to understand more of. And I just thought, this is really the thing that I'm thinking about most of the time. And I really, over about 15 years, started this slow process of trying to dip my toes into how do you merge dance and faith without getting cheesy and religious, and actually staying in the tension of being honest and human while holding this kind of sacredness of the idea of a creator, the creator with the created creating together. Yeah, so I'm really inspired by that. And that's part of what my journey with Open Sky has been, just trying to invite people to ask questions about what's happening and why, and experience maybe some new ideas to come across their minds, to open up some fresh ways of thinking, to ask new questions and make some space in our brains. So I'm particularly inspired by bringing dance to non dancers and
Mm,
to really unusual audiences. And that has become the thrust of Open Sky Arts Collective, has really been to expose artists to very unusual audiences, and to expose the audiences, like to, enter from a more human, less concert, more intimate space together, which was something that drew me to small plates. I like the
mm.
intimacy. So Open Sky really does mostly outreach engagements. We do very little concert work, as it turns out. And that's really been the most inspiring thing about it for me, because it keeps everything really human and lots of conversation. And I like the touchability of it.
Mm,
I like sharing space and real experience through art.
mm.
So I really spent about 10 years not liking anything I made. I don't know if you've experienced that. As a choreographer, I was like, oh no, I hate this, I hate that. Oh gosh, no, this is terrible. I really rejected most of my own work for about 10
Mhm.
years in there, when I was trying to say something that I thought was important to say, And then finally I just gave over and kind of like, well, it is what it is. Here it is. And it helped me to get more honest and have less to prove. And now I'm really enjoying the process of making dances.
I love that, and I'm wondering what it makes me curious about is your process in creating dance,
Mhm.
actually, and I think there's something about the piece that you brought to Small Plates, A Distant Welcome, that had, like, the choreography was what I felt presented to me was like an energy or a feeling or an environment. And it actually felt like it almost wouldn't have mattered what the steps were and what the actual movement and choreography were. It was it was the feeling and an energy, like, that's the only way that I can describe it. So, I'm curious about your process. It just makes me really curious because you said you rejected everything you did for so long, and then you just kind of gave over, like there was this like surrendering to like what it actually is. So I wonder if those things are connected. I really do want to know how you do that.
Yeah. You described that more succinctly than I ever have, actually, which is the idea of what I spend a lot of time with the dancers that I work with, saying, we have this opportunity to impact people and atmospheres with love, really. I know that kind of sounds cheesy, but that's really what it boils down to.
Mhm.
And how we do it can change skin all the time. But the essence of what we bring is what's important. It's either about us, like I feel like sometimes art can be extremely self-serving, especially dance, because it feels so good to do. And as you're creating, you can become very self-focused and how's this feel to me? And it just can become very self-focused. Or this is what I'm exploring. Can we? And I think we can allow movement to flow from a place of gratitude and openness, vulnerability, how we create, meaning like even our rehearsal and creation time. I spend a lot of time inviting dancers to process where they are and affirming what they feed back to me. For instance, in a distant welcome, one of the things that we did was talk about the dreams of our hearts, vision or dreams that we each carry, because the piece reflects a vision that I've carried. And I thought, I'm just curious what you guys are carrying. You know, how do you feel about vision? How do you feel about dreams? Let's talk about it. So we actually took a long time to talk through that. And I learned their stories, you know, their rejection of their own dreams or the fear that that brought up inside of them. The one who was most like courageous and loud about his dream, and others who were really had rejected themselves in their dreams. And we processed through that. All of that, hoping to get to a place that had a vulnerable tangibility. Can I say it like that? That you could feel, okay, we've really gotten real about this now. They're not just feeding back what I'm giving to them. They're now starting to own some of this for themselves. And I'm sharing with them what they're sharing with me. Even their body language and describing their feelings about the subject influenced the movement that I created.
Mm.
And I also invited them to help create some phrases that would they be open to creating phrases with me in the context of that vulnerable conversation? Would they be open to me manipulating some of that to make it work into the dance? Yes, yes, they're all very open to that. That's great.
Mm.
I tend to attract people like that who are just like, sure, I have this, let's put it in there, you know. But the idea that the atmosphere that we create a piece in is the atmosphere that it will carry every time it's performed. So the rehearsal time is very sacred,
Mm.
hopefully, you know, really bathed in humor and
Mm.
and openness, transparency with each other. I talk a lot with my dancers about what I feel insecure about while I'm making dances. That
Mm.
dance was very vulnerable to talk about because I was using this experience of creating that dance to process an area of grief in my life, you know, an unknown thing that had been causing grief. And I needed to deal with that, you know. So the people that I created that piece with were close, trusted friends. And I think that's probably what you sense then when you're watching it is this kind of atmosphere that we're moving inside of. And I always say to dancers, I kind of feel like the movement most times is just a means to an end. The end being the experience of the audience getting more real with themselves, maybe, and experiencing dancers who have made peace with their relationship with each other, their relationship with God. I don't know, just an open place, a place of trying to be more vulnerable, more transparent. As I've gotten less judgmental of myself in that process, more of that heart is coming through little by little. It's been very fun to watch and watch unfold inside of me and inside of them. So the process of it can look really different on different days. Sometimes I come in, I'm very inspired and I just let it rip and I just have, you know, these images and I'm going after it. But usually when I make a new dance and definitely with the distant welcome, it was slow going. It was a lot of talking and a little bit of movement and a lot more talking and then trying on movement like you try on a pair of jeans, seeing how it feels and then taking it off and actually, I don't like that one. Let's try this
Mhm.
instead. So lots of tears actually in the making of that piece, which is maybe why it carried tears for you too. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I feel them right now. I feel them in this conversation. I feel the tears. And I feel like the dance, even in the title, A Distant Welcome, it just has this sense of longing in it for something far away. It has like this beautiful sense of remoteness and also like warmth and longing. And so for me, I had just this like long term longing for a place that felt like home to me. And I think I found it. Like, I think I'm here at home right now. It's my pillow.
I know. I was just thinking your home pillow right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's part of my story. But that just, like that's where it touched me was like this sense of longing. And even like the way you're talking about the process, it sounds like this very remote and far away, like a ship sailing on the ocean, that you see on the horizon, just so far away, even in the process of just going slowly and trying something on and then realizing it wasn't right. And then just continuing like to persist in the truth of what felt right for that particular atmosphere. It's just so lovely.
Yes. I appreciate as I've gotten older, taking the pressure off of making things that have to make some kind of impact and instead realizing that I can just make things that have impact on me. And I think that the kind of homesickness that you're talking about in a way, I that's a feeling that's very familiar to me actually my whole life. I don't know if that's an artist thing, if that's why we create because we are carrying something that's that has that substance to it, like I have this I know there's more. I know that I'm made for more or we are made for more and I want what I make to draw us toward that more.
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of homesickness, but I also like long to find the familiar at the same time that I long to not be mediocre. Like these two forces inside of me. On the one hand, I want to relate to everyone and I want them to see me and know that I accept them. And yet I want to be special. I'm sure you know. And so that's like that bittersweetness of just kind of similar. I want to be home and I want to be remote. I long to be here, but I long to be in the future and my life quickening out there.
I was just like thinking maybe that is just the heart of being a creator. Like I get excited by the idea of creativity and the idea that I can just create something, but maybe there's a little something, like like a deep-seated dissatisfaction with how like how things are that we have to always be creating something and then it does kind of make you different from normal people, right? 9 to 5ers. You know? Like,
Yeah.
right? Where they're
Yeah.
like, "What are you doing? Just get a job," you know? And you're like, "This is my job. Creating stuff is my job," and they're
Yes.
scratching their head, That's what I was thinking when you were saying all that, like, it's just part of our nature, kind of maybe this sense of dissatisfaction
Yes. It keeps you moving.
in a
It keeps
way.
you creating. Yeah. It
Yeah.
keeps you searching and willing
Mhm.
to do the digging and
Mhm. But what you're describing is like a way to build connection through that. I mean, another thing I've noticed is just you have just such incredible humility, about you. Some of that I think,
thanks.
you know, when we're younger and then we wanted I don't know how old you are.
45.
Okay.
45. Yeah.
you're not quite as old as me, but I think that is part of aging too, is like, as you get older, you can give up the need to impress, and we kind of learn, and maybe it's a female thing too, like as women, as we get older and like I've had children, they're grown now and they don't need me in their lives anymore. And it's like, oh, now I can direct my time the way I want to. And I don't have to, worry so much about everything else and everyone else. And I can just focus on what's important and meaningful to me and what I
Mm.
want to bring to the world in this experience called life in whatever time is left.
Yes. I'm really motivated by the inner culture of creatives, that how we share, space just like this, and how we connect our hearts in tenderness and kindness towards each other has become the biggest priority for me as a creative.
Mm,
Everything else, once you've done enough like big gigs or professional dance or whatever, you see many different sides of this thing. And it occurs to me that there's nothing that really is lasting about it if the artists who are involved in it are not somehow invested and somehow actually in a real way connected to one another. And then, not that the point is for it to last. I think the point is for it to be shared.
mm,
And so from conception to final performance, the sharing of it is what's important. And I'm really inspired by and challenged by wanting to create spaces where people can get real with each other.
mhm,
And I'm too tired to keep up appearances at this point. I
mm,
I I can't keep doing that.
mm,
For a while I had plenty of energy for that, but now there's just too much. I just can't do it. It's kind of like, okay, well, even the night I remember the night that I submitted the piece to Small
mm,
Plates, it was of course, literally the 11th hour. I definitely did not expect it to get chosen. I for sure thought, I'm just going to do this out of an act of faith. And this is something I wanted to challenge myself to do this year. It was actually the first time I've ever submitted a piece to any
wow,
festival. I've just spent the last 10 years bringing dance to homeless people,
wow.
really, and kids in rough neighborhoods. And I just thought, I just kind of want to be part of this conversation that's happening. I'm inspired by these people, and I want to enter to this community. I wonder if these people would let me in. And so even how I submitted the video that night and the words that I put with it, I thought, I'm not going to overthink any of this. I'm going to be totally myself. There's temptation to make it sound heady and more significant in some way, to put certain types of language on it. And I thought, I think I'm going to resist doing that and just be myself. And that way, this is sustainable. And if this doesn't work, it's okay, because I just don't, I don't have what I don't have anymore. And so I was totally thrilled that you guys received it. And the experience has been just really powerful and wonderful to feel. A former ballet dancer has a lot of baggage of feeling rejected by the dance
Mm,
community from a young
mm,
age.
oh,
And
good.
so to feel accepted and connected was really powerful for me. And
Oh
I'm
my
so
God.
thankful. Yeah.
We were so glad to have you. And I'm really glad that you shared all of that, because I know that there will be people who listen to this who are considering applying to small plates, possibly, in the
Mm.
future. And, we can see through all that fluff. Like I've been doing this for a long time. I've looked at a lot of applications, and the fluff, it's wonderful if it sounds good, but really, we're looking at your dance, and if it's not matching up, you've got a lot to say, and and the dance isn't really underlining what you said, or it's not supporting, like, it doesn't really matter in the end. And what you have to bring is really, we're really looking for the authenticity and the real you of what you bring. And we're looking for different variety and diversity. So we don't want people to be like other people. Like we don't
Yes.
want dancers to be like other dancers and choreographers to like, we're looking for that, like the real juice. And yeah,
Yes.
so that's what everyone should bring. You should just keep it real and bring what you've got, because like really we all just started out like in our some, Dolly Dinkle studio somewhere or in our bedrooms. Like I was with the record player with my sisters, like choreographing stuff. Like we all started at some place like that with just an urge to make meaning with movement. And
So good.
that's all it
Yes.
is.
Yes. And that really actually comes through so strongly just on the tone of encouraging people to apply. I mean, even the video, I sent in the best video I had of the piece at the time, which was a rehearsal video, and one of our dancers had her baby strapped on her in the video.
I'm getting chills thinking about that. And that baby was just like chilling out. I couldn't
Yeah.
believe that baby.
Yeah. You did. Yes. And that's she because that was a day in the life, that was just normal for her to join us in rehearsal like that. And I just thought, well, this is quirky, but I'm not trying to
Mhm.
prove anything by this. This is actually the best video I have, and there happens to be a baby strapped on the back, so we're just gonna go with it. But what that actually gave back was the experience of being at small plates. You can tell that the people who come to it have made peace with themselves in some way.
Mm.
That you're attracting because you're looking for that real and you're accepting the real. You're attracting people to come in who are ready to share who they actually are and what's going on. It didn't feel like there's a lot of pretense involved in the night. In the weekend was so warm. That was so fun for all of us. It was so fun. It was just actually so enriching to be part of that.
I'm really happy to hear that. So, can we talk a little bit more about your dance, A Distant Welcome?
Yes. I named it a distant welcome because there's a scripture in Hebrews that says, it's Hebrews 11, and it's kind of like talking about the heroes of the faith. It's called the Heroes of the Faith chapter. And it goes through all these amazing historical, people listed in the Bible who've done amazing things and had responded to some call of God on their life, and you're tempted to see yourself as other when you're reading through this chapter of amazing people doing amazing things. They ended up in the Bible, for crying out loud. It's like, who am I? But at the end of the chapter, there's this one scripture, this one verse that is so cool. And it says, they actually didn't receive the things that were promised to them. It says they hid in caves, they were martyred, and they lived lives of faith in obscurity. And it says the world wasn't worthy of them. It doesn't brag on what they accomplished. It actually brags on the state of their heart, living in a place of obscurity before what they thought it was all going to look like is not what it actually looked like. And it says they never received what was promised, but they welcomed it from a distance. And so they lived their lives as part of a greater narrative of humanity, welcoming the idea of the kingdom of heaven on earth as coming through their own life in some way that maybe at the time didn't even make sense to them. So it says they welcomed it from a distance. And that really, really has stuck with me in the last probably 10 years. I've been dreaming about this idea of having a community of artists on land. And I just really I can taste it. I dream about it. I think about it. I talk about it. I have practically obsessed about it for years and years, probably about 15 years, actually. And then in the last 5 years, with the pandemic and our
Mm,
family relocated, my husband's job
mm,
changed. our whole lives changed. What
Mm,
felt like it was coming close, and maybe I was getting close to it, suddenly
mhm.
seemed eons away.
Yeah.
And I had to grieve that, kind of go through, okay, I need to let go of obsessing about this idea in the future and actually just live my life every day, be present, be where I am, be grateful for right now, right here. And I was really surprised at how much grieving that took for me to do that. I kind of avoided the topic. I didn't want to think about it. First, I felt really foolish about it. I was kind of embarrassed that I had carried this thing for so long and now it seems so far away. And then I felt kind of guilty, like, oh, yeah. And I've talked to all these people about it and raised all people's hopes. And now it's, oh, man, I shouldn't have done that. And, just this the whole process of how do you carry a dream in a community of people? Like, my whole ethos is to be a vulnerable, open person to my close community. And yet I felt like I let them down by not producing this dream, not producing in some way or being able to push it through. Or I don't know. I think some of that too is just like directing a nonprofit. You feel responsible to impact change. You feel responsible to, I don't know, just make an impact. I want to make an impact. And I felt like in this area, I was like, oh, I can't do this by myself, and I'm running into all kinds of dead ends. Maybe I was wrong to dream this. I don't know. But I was really needing to kind of grieve this thing and put it down. I was carrying it and needed to carry some other things. So I needed to put this thing down and receive other things to carry in this time. So I asked these friends of mine, would they kind of help me process through this and do this piece? And it just so happened that I found this piece of music that is about a documentary about a place called the Sea Ranch in California, which was a communal living space created by a bunch of really smart hippies. And they decided to build houses and have a community that really reflected the landscape around them. And they called it the Sea Ranch. And so it's the voices of these people who were part of building that community, referring to what it was like to be part of it, referring to what was wonderful about it and what was difficult about it, how it became, and also how it kind of disintegrated in a way from what they
Mhm.
had originally thought it would be. And so, in a way, they are also grieving it, even in the voiceovers of these different individuals who are interviewed in the process. And when I heard that piece of music for the first time, it was like I was fast forwarding my life and hearing myself talk about something that I had dreamed about. And almost like my old lady self going back to tell people about what Open Sky Ranch was going to be like. And it just really satisfied my heart and helped me. So that's how the piece started. That's how I started building it. The piece has four chairs in it. It's four dancers, four chairs, and each dancer has a chair, and the chairs represent in some way kind of the dream, the seed or the dream of their or vision of their heart. And I was inspired by the idea of the effects of time over a vision. Like, how does time relate to ideas and how do they affect one another? And then I even got really kind of sciencey about it for a minute and started studying some Einstein relativity stuff, understanding a little bit more about matter and its weight and the observation, how observation can affect matter.
Mhm.
And the idea that just even how I've spent time observing this idea in my own life could actually help in some real way a future generation actually achieve it, help manifest it, if you will. I hate to use that word because I feel like it's a buzzword right now, but
Yeah.
bring matter to it, that
Mhm.
it could materialize in some way.
Mhm.
And so that was very fun to explore how an idea can become matter because of how I carry it in my brain. It can turn into matter inside of me. and then it can carry weight, and then it can speak and carry frequency with other people that are vibrating with that same type of energy that I'm now carrying in my brain, and that something real could actually be built out of that sharing. So, time drawing near and an idea getting heavier and heavier as time moves with it and it's interacting with time. Both heavier for me to carry and maybe also heavier that other people will come around it and carry it with me. And maybe that will also help it
Mhm.
to manifest. There's the word
Mm.
again. But anyway, so I was really inspired by these things. And it also took it out of a place of feeling like it was just about me, about my dream, about my idea. It removed loneliness and isolation from it. And I felt like it kind of put it out on the table. Like, here, everybody, here's this. And I'm not going to take so much personal identity from it. I'm going to just put it out there and share it and see what happens. So the dance also is a kind of an invitation to others who may, vibe with something similar,
Mhm.
a shared dream of something that is there's more for community, there's more for sharing life together and creating. So, yeah, so the chairs represent just kind of like each person's individual dream. And then we're moving the chairs in a clockwise motion throughout the piece. The chairs kind of gently move clockwise, which represents, just gently the idea of time passing. And each person kind of has a moment of expressing what it means for them to struggle through their dream or to stand on top of their dream or to broadcast their dream or to squash their dream. That's going back to the idea that I had this conversation with each of the four dancers, well, the three others in the original piece,
Mm.
and kind of interacting with their dream and the rest of the community observing that interaction, but also acting as support and reflecting back to them that interaction. So, in a way, kind of midwifing the dream inside of each other,
Mm.
like being there to help birth. Then, by the end of the piece, there's a point in the piece where the dancers really see one another for the first time. And I love it because it's when someone in the music is talking about sharing meals together. There was a part of this Sea Ranch community where they would invite each other to a shared meal. That is a point in the piece where they all kind of look up and really lock eyes for the first time, and then they leave the chairs and start running around the stage. They move from a place of being so much about their individual dream as just discovering what it feels like to just move together, just be together. And although those dreams kind of got them to that place, now it's no longer really about that. Now it's about them actually just experiencing togetherness and the wonder and awe of community. And then by the end of the piece, they actually go back and gather their chairs up, and we interlock the chairs in a way that kind of creates this little bonfire look,
Mhm.
with the idea of sort of planting the seed of our hearts down in the middle of it and watching a tree grow up, watching something bigger than the sum of its parts come out of that. Kind of the laying down and intertwining our dreams, letting go of some individuality, but also like leaning into one another's uniqueness and how that can cause something even more significant to come out than any one of us could have produced on our own. So that's kind of the arc of the piece.
Mm. Would you like to watch it? Are you ready to watch the dance?
Sure. Yes.
Are you enjoying the Dance Maker podcast? Please share it on your social media channels. Like, subscribe, leave a review, do all the things to help us reach more dance makers, dance enthusiasts, and audiences. If you're interested in Small Plates Choreography Festival, there are many ways to get involved with our shows. You can apply to present work. You can support us by coming to one of our performances or watching a live stream. And you can also support us financially. Small Plates is fiscally sponsored by Fractured Atlas, and so your support is tax deductible. Please check our website, smallplatesdance.com, for open applications, links to purchase tickets, and to donate. Be sure to join our email list to receive notices about new podcast episodes, application deadline reminders, and announcements about new shows and events. See you at Small Plates.
Loved watching that. Something actually that while we were watching it just now, I was remembering that the girls actually felt, the dancers that night, they felt terrible about how they performed it, which is so funny. They just felt off. They said afterwards, that was the worst we've ever done. We're so sorry.
Oh my goodness.
And even just watching it again, because I remember thinking, it all just goes back to this thing of what are we even doing? We're here to connect. Just like even the idea of having like an off night of performance, if it's heart forward and it's connective, what could be off about that? It's okay. And like there are some little, timing things here and there or whatever. And it just, as I'm even watching it with you now, none of that is coming through to me at all. What's coming through is the tenderness and the connection. And yeah.
You know what I was thinking when I was watching it just now is, I'm tearing up because that dance really touches me. But I was thinking, wow, I've just been like every time I've seen this piece, I've just been like immersed in the essence of it. And I almost didn't notice how well danced it is and how beautiful the movers are, because it just like I just was like taking it in so holistically and taking in the energy and the essence and the spirit of just what the atmosphere that you created, and the atmosphere of the dialogue of those words, and that whenever I hear that line, like it was the most beautiful place I've ever seen and still is. It just touches me. It's so beautiful to hear someone say
Yes.
that. But I just like was aware of like, oh, I wasn't even like thinking about how wonderful these dancers are. Like they were like transparent in the process. It was like they were just an instrument of the entire thing. So that's
Wow.
crazy that they felt like they messed up. It kind of goes back to what I said in the beginning too. Like it almost wouldn't matter what the movement was. I'm not sure after watching it, I really still agree with that statement, because I think that the quality of the movement brought the essence as well. But I don't think any kind of mistakes or timing being off or anything like that would like it really impact the holistic entity that this dance is.
Oh, that's so cool. I think that's actually such a high compliment. I think that when we work on movement quality, to me, the whole point of movement quality is clarity, and that it can point back to something greater than itself. Yeah, I want to feel moved by dance, not impressed by it. And I think that that's such a high compliment for you to give to them, that they could become transparent to a greater atmosphere is exactly what they would love to hear, and definitely the coolest feedback for me to get about it. I'm looking for dancers who are willing to become transparent to the bigger thing. That's really great way to see that. And I agree with you. I There's also something so great about when you're working with proficient movers, because they can just carry an off night so easily. It's just meh, it's fine. It's still so lovely. Like the body is so trained and steady. Any given time, no biggie. It's such a gift to work with dancers that have really done the work of building skill.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, they're wonderful dancers, and
Thanks.
I
Yeah.
hope, I hope it's okay to say that there was a pregnant body in that dance.
Yes.
Yeah, I love seeing that, and like your video where you had the baby. There are a lot of women who are creating dance. Like, we are a force in the world of dance making. There's quite a few
Yes.
of us, and you know, having families and having babies is a really big part of that, and we carry them along our journeys just like any working mother, also has children that she carries along with her to her job and everything else that she does. It's a big part of our lives. So just to allow that in and make space for it, and have it as just part of what we're doing here. I love that. As a mother, it touches my heart whenever I see dancing pregnant bodies.
Me too. I think it's just so exquisite to celebrate the metamorphosis in the body. Yeah, I'm really challenged by the idea of bringing women in all different seasons of their physical experience into dances, because I think it completely changes the dance. The having a pregnant woman also in a piece called The Distant Welcome is just so perfect. Like, the idea she's already welcoming this person she doesn't even know yet into her life,
Mhm.
and this person's gonna impact her. But I
Mhm.
also, we wore these little kind of like crop tops, and I chose to do that because of the pregnant mama in the
Okay.
group. I thought, oh, I really want to just, I don't want to leave any question about what's going on here. She is with child. She actually just had her baby, and
Oh, wow.
um, it's just so fun to, yeah, to see movement on the different shaped bodies. I think that I'm really passionate about getting women moving again after having babies, not so that their body goes back to looking the way that it did, but so that they can express with their new body still, and they feel steady and strong to continue expressing. And I mean, I just think it's the most beautiful thing. But it is challenging sometimes when you're helping a woman walk back into her movement when she hasn't decided yet how she feels about her body at this point. That is a very tender process.
Mm.
And I'm like, it's wonderful. Let's just, you know, just do it. Let's just do it. It's just great. And I know that some of these, especially young moms, they're like, "Oh, I don't know. This should go here and that shouldn't be doing that." I'm like, "Actually, it's all just so great. Let's just go with it."
Yeah,
Um, so it was really special to have a pregnant woman in this piece. She was a dear friend, and I felt like she really carried it well.
that is really wonderful. Well, I feel like I could talk to you all day.
Same.
Tell us what else is going on. Do you have anything coming up that you'd like everybody to know about? And where can people find out more about you and your work? And how can we amplify what you're doing through this podcast episode?
Well, soon after this podcast airs, probably, is we are going to be doing Open Sky has an April fundraising concert here. We'll be doing a distant welcome, and I'll be performing it for that
Oh,
one,
wow.
which I'm really excited for. And we will be using this particular show to help raise funds for outreaches that we do in West Virginia each summer with a neighborhood of kids there that we bring free creative arts to a group of kids that whose parents are really struggling through addiction. And it's been we've been going to the same group of kids for 10 years and growing with them from 6 and under now to teenagers. And so we bring a big group of people with us, volunteers that come and teach art and dance and musical theater and a little soccer camp for these kids. And so our April 25th show is going to be to raise funds for that. It'll be a full evening concert here in the Dallas, Texas area, which is going to be, it's very exciting to get to host a thing like that. We have a couple of guest companies coming to be part of it as well. But in terms of future things as well, every year in October, here, the third weekend in October, we host an outdoor evening work that is about a third of the work is open sky, and about two-thirds of it is visiting companies that we invite in to share space with us. My aunt and uncle live on 3 acres that overlook a lake outside the Fort Worth area in Benbrook, Texas. And we have built a huge stage, and we call it the Backyard Series. And we host a full evening length night of it's very family friendly. We have people come and sell tacos, and people are sitting on picnic blankets, and just kind of family style art experience. And it's
Oh,
very,
that's
very fun.
awesome.
So folks could check that out if they want to get in contact with us. Open Sky underscore Dallas is the best way to do that. Or just
Okay.
look at Instagram, Open Sky Arts Collective will also get you there.
We'll post links to all of that in the notes for this episode so that people can check that out and so they can donate to your outreach program as well.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Any way that we can support you at Small Plates, please just reach out. We would love to support what you're doing and continue
Thank you.
to amplify your voice in the world through movement and art and keep talking about you and your dances and your work
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to be sending in a submission for the fall small plates.
for Austin again or Newburgh this time.
Oh, I hadn't even considered Newburgh. Actually, that would be super fun. I was just gonna do Austin again. I have family in Austin, so it was a
Yeah.
really easy experience for us to get down there, but Newburgh would be
Yeah. It's
super cool to get up there.
definitely closer. But yeah, the New York show, they're both fun. And hopefully next year we're going to be doing more shows in a couple more places. And eventually I hope that we can expand a little further west.
That's gonna be wonderful. I
Yeah.
feel like it's a much needed, very valuable experience for artists. I also so appreciated the variety of work that you embraced. It was really fun to be part of that
Yeah.
curation.
Thank you. We really try. Thank you so much for being part of the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's been wonderful.
Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Dance Maker podcast, sponsored by Small Plates Choreography Festival. Be sure to support this podcast by liking, subscribing, and sharing with a friend or on your social media channels, or by leaving us a review. That really helps us expand our reach. To learn more about Small Plates Choreography Festival, please visit our website, www.smallplatesdance.com, where you can apply to be one of our performances. Be sure to also sign up for our newsletter and be the first to hear about new shows, get reminders about application deadlines, and of course, we will also let you know each time a new podcast episode drops. We rely on your financial support. If you would like to support Small Plates with a tax-deductible donation, please donate through our fiscal sponsor, Fractured Atlas. The link to donate can be found on our website and in the show notes for this podcast. Until next time, fellow dance makers, happy creating.